Hey everyone, welcome to this video. Today I'll be walking you through a microservices architecture we've set up using Spring Cloud Gateway. We have three main services: an API gateway, a user service, and an employee service. I'll also show you how we've configured Swagger to document these services. So let's get started with this video and understand the overview of this application. So firstly, our API gateway acts as a single entry point for our clients. It routes requests to other services, allowing them to remain independent and scalable. So as you can see here, we are going to create an ALB ingress resource and attach it to the API gateway. This way, this will be the only point of entry for our whole application. Then we have user service and employee service, each running on different ports. The API gateway will forward requests to the correct service based on the URL path, making it easier to handle and manage multiple services. So now let's take a look at the GitHub repository of this application and understand the configuration files. So as you can see, we have our three services: API gateway, employee service, and user service. There is also a README file attached, and the link to this GitHub repository will be given in the description. This README file explains how this application is run locally, but we are going to deploy it on AWS and automate the whole process of deployment. So when we look at the API gateway, we have a file called application.yaml in API gateway, which is the application configuration file for this service. And as you can see, it is running on the port 8080, and the name of this application is API gateway. This is the main part. You can see there are routes defined for the user service and employee service. The ID is user service and the URI is the service URL. Currently it's localhost. It gets this thing from here, user.service.url. Currently it's localhost, but we'll be creating a Kubernetes service and then replacing it here. This way it will route to the user service or employee service respectively. So the routes are defined here. Then here is the path defined for Swagger UI. We will be accessing it on this path, that is /Swagger UI /index.html. And then moving on, we have our URLs of all the services defined here for API gateway, this, and then for user service and for employee service. So this way API gateway acts as a single point of entry where all the paths for other services are defined. And then after API gateway, let's move on to the user service and check the same application configuration file. There is another application.yaml here, and here as you can see, it is running on the port 8082, and the name is the name of this application is employee service, and the database here used is H2, which is an in-memory database. For the demo purpose, to keep it light, we've used H2 database, but if you want to use any other SQL or PostgreSQL, then I'll show you how we can configure that. All we'll have to do is just replace this part with the endpoint of the RDS instance that you have created, and then we have the same for Swagger UI, the path for Swagger UI to view it on Swagger UI. Then we have the services for API gateway that is currently on localhost, and we will be replacing it with our Kubernetes service. Then moving on, the same configuration also follows for the user service as well. This is running on port 8081 and it is using the same database H2 and then the same configuration path for Swagger UI, and also localhost again, which we will be replacing shortly. So this is the structure of our application, and this is what we'll have to focus on. Starting tomorrow, we will begin with the practical demonstration and understand how this is done and deployed on AWS practically. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit a like. Thank you.